Hey everyone, it is Blue and we are back with another video. As you can tell, I am a level Feral Druid in the Shadowlands beta and I am so excited to finally start bringing you Shadowlands content. Before we jump into the meat of the video, I just wanted to give a big thanks to all my viewers. In my last video, I was asking, hey, does anybody have beta they can send my way? Does anybody know how to make it possible? Now, and if this is a result of timing or my viewers, anyway, it doesn't matter. I am so thankful. But enough of that, let's jump into what we are going to be talking about today. Changes to Bloodtalons. My first intentions when jumping into Shadowlands was to get a clear vision on the new Feral Covenant abilities. But of course, I could not help but notice a bigger issue that I felt needed my immediate attention. Along with some of the changes that Feral Druid has received moving into Shadowlands, the change to Bloodtalons I have felt to be the most noticeable and game-changing. If you're not aware, the old Bloodtalons would require a cast of regrowth during your rotation in order to buff your strongest spells. Doing so felt very unusual, as Feral was the only class that actually depended on casting a heal or wasting a global cooldown on an ability that does 0 damage in order to do more damage. Through the Shadowlands Alpha and Beta, there have been a number of changes to Bloodtalons to have the same effect, but to make it happen as part of your rotation that you are already doing, therefore reducing the amount of wasted cooldowns cast in a fight that does nothing to your damage. Now, in theory, this is a huge buff to Feral Druid, but unfortunately the current iteration and prior iterations do not result in a fluid rotation or gameplay. Instead, what Bloodtalons does do is limit your options as far as player choice of which spells to cast, and increase the pooling time or downtime of not pressing any abilities at all. Let's take a look at how this happened. Now, Bloodtalons reads, when you use 3 different combo point generating abilities within 4 seconds, the damage of your next 2 rips or ferocious bite is increased by 30%. Now, there are conditions within this talent. Let's read those. Let's take a look. One is that it requires 3 spells. Now, if you're not aware, we can do different spells, but in total, these spells are going to cost us 100, 110, or 115 energy. So right off the bat, this is very dependent on procs for Feral, which give us free casts. It's dependent on cooldowns, which provide us energy, and just energy regeneration. Because Feral baseline only has 100 energy to begin with. Now, another condition is that it has to be done within 4 seconds. Now, let's take a look at the live version. Casting Regrowth or Entangling Roots cause your next 2 melee abilities to increase damage, to deal 25% increased damage for their full duration. Now, of course, this has a condition as well, and the condition is you must cast one of those spells. Now, you can clearly see which one is more difficult to pull off, but can you see which one promotes more player agency? The live version says your next 2 spells are buffed, which promote more player option of how to use the effect and when during their rotation. Now, of course, it is more mathematically sound to use the proc to increase your rip or ferocious bite like the beta reads, but at least on live we have the option to do so or do so differently. Another huge disadvantage of the Beta Bloodtalons is that it does not work with the new Berserk update. Trying to proc Bloodtalons during your Berserk window actually results in a DPS loss. Berserk reads, go Berserk for 20 seconds, causing Rake and Shred to deal damage as though you were stealthed, and giving finishing moves a 20% chance per combo point spent to refund 2 combo points. Now, Shred's stealth version also reads, while stealthed, Shred deals 60% increased damage and has double the chance to critically strike and generate 1 additional combo point. Because of this new change, during Berserk, casting a finishing move results in 2 combo points, and by just casting 1 Shred, it could possibly result in 4 or 5 combo points, leaving no room to cast 2 other spells without overcapping. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense to have a full combo points to waste 2 additional spells to increase the damage by 60% when you could just use those 2 combo points instead after a finisher to shred, which could possibly result in 2 more bites. That's a 200% value versus trying to increase your damage by 60% future value. If this goes live currently, I believe that this new Bloodtalons would actually cause more confusion and complication than the live version, which already historically is known for causing confusion in newer Feral players. The beta version increases the conditions in order to happen, doesn't function during Feral burst windows, and reduces player choice when in scenarios that are greater than 1 target by saying you must cast 3 separate abilities. An example of Bloodtalons failing would be when there are 2 or 3 targets. It is a higher DPS option for Feral to rake each target than it would be to rake, thrash, and swipe the mob to proc Bloodtalons. Now, I really do believe that when Blizzard made this change to Feral, they did so in hopes of making the class easier to understand, as well as fixing an issue on live of having to waste a global cooldown on a spell that itself did nothing. I would like to propose a change that can take the good from what we have on live, as well as the ideology of no wasted cooldowns and being part of your rotation from the beta. Before I do so, I hope first of all I made myself clear and that you understand the issue, and second, most importantly, that as a Feral community, instead of all arguing our ideologies of what will fix the class, we can together come to a conclusion. Therefore, a result may actually be done, or may be taken. Alright, my Bloodtalons reads, your chosen affinity spells are now castable in cat form when Predatory Swiftness is active. Predatory Swiftness, of course, your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to make your next regrowth or entangling roots instant, free, and castable in all forms. Further, Bloodtalons will read, casting a spell from your chosen affinity will increase the damage of your next rip, bite, or primal wrath by a percentage. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our balanced affinity spells are. They give us Star Surge, Starfire, and Sunfire. Guardian Affinity gives us free generation on a 30-second cooldown. In order for this new Bloodtalons proc to work, I would suggest, since Frenzied Regeneration has a cooldown, that we put Iron Fur, instead of being baseline, back into Guardian Affinity so that Iron Fur may be used to proc Bloodtalons when somebody goes Guardian Affinity. For Restoration Affinity, we have Rejuvenation, Swiftment, and Wild Growth. Wild Growth's the big one here. This one also has a cooldown. Now, in order for the Restoration Affinities to work with this new type of Bloodtalons, I would also suggest that casting Regrowth also acts as proccing the Restoration Affinity, so that way we can switch between Regrowth and Wild Growths. Now, I understand that this could possibly result in Ferals being too strong, especially I think in dungeons, having Feral being able to cast Sunfire on mobs in their dungeons when we already have Primal Wrath, which is doing so good. That could be an issue. We could also change Bloodtalons to read that depending on your chosen affinity, only one spell is usable. Such as Balance, we could say Starfire. For Guardian, we could say Iron Fur. And for Restoration, of course, we could use Wild Growth as well as Regrowth. Now, I think this change to Bloodtalons would actually synergize really well with Heart of the Wild, one of our new talents we've been given. Heart of the Wild reads, abilities associated with your chosen affinity are substantially empowered for 45 seconds on a 5-minute cooldown. So for Balance, it says your damage abilities are increased by 30%, and Star Surge is instant. For Guardian, it says Bear Form gives an additional 20% stamina, multiple uses of Iron Fur may overlap, and Frenzied Regeneration has 2 charges. And then Restoration says your healing of your Restoration spells is increased by 30%, and mana cost reduced by 50%. This could also possibly result in Feral getting a raid spot. For a raid that is really in need of a DPS / healer, we could fill that gap. With Feral in your raid, you have the option of your Feral to spec into Resto Affinity to smooth out the damage phases of an entire fight. This, of course, wouldn't shame your already raid healers, but it would be substantial enough being able to cast Regrowth and Wild Growths if done off cooldown correctly to smooth the entire healing of a fight. It could also result in Feral having more survivability in PvP, which has been an issue. Of course, this isn't going to break the meta and make them OP overnight by being able to cast Iron Fist as part of the rotation, but I think it will help in making the squishiness of Feral go away. Hey everyone, I really appreciate so much that you made it this far into my video. Now, if you could do a huge favor, please like the video, share the video to all your Druid friends. Not only does it help me, but more importantly, the intended use of this video was to actually get a change to happen. So, I mean, if you're not going to share the video, at least spread the word of this new Bloodtalons change. You guys, and in case you're like, hey, who is this guy? I just want to give you some background. I've actually been playing Feral for quite some time. I've been YouTubing Feral for quite some time. Many years I've spent optimizing this spec, making it a actual usable spec. And I have only been playing the beta 2 days to realize that this is not going to work. If you're like me and you previously did not have beta access and you are depending on these YouTubers and these videos, these people to teach you, let me tell you, it's not going to work, you guys. Now for the rest of this video, I didn't want to just give you, I did want to kind of, prove my point, obviously, but in the rest of this video, I'm going to show you some dummies so you can actually see how Bloodtalons, it requires you to pool your energy. So not only do you have to pool your energy for bite, but you have to pool your energy after bite to proc your Bloodtalons. Now, I'm going to show you in my dummy video what happens if you don't pool your energy. That you're going to refresh your bleeds and you're not going to get the proc. It's really dependent on Omen of Clarity to proc. If Omen of Clarity doesn't proc, it's not going to happen. I'm also going to show you a DPS rotation with Bloodtalon or with Berserk active, so you can see that doing Berserk and then just casting one shred results in 4 to 5 combo points. So you can see there's really no gap to even cast any other spells to proc Bloodtalons. But that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for all of your guys' support. Like I said, please like the video. Please share it. Let's get an actual change together. Let's come together as a Feral community with one change so that Feral can be like, okay, this is the change they need. This is what they want. Let's make it happen, you guys. But that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching the video. Take it easy. Peace.